Morning, everybody.
Morning.
And good morning to those online.
Morning.
Morning.
Is there?
So today's theme is all about what is fasting and is it for me? And the first thing that people might say is, no, don't. But we shall see. We shall go through and give you some information on what is fasting and how it is used in different ways. So we can start by, if somebody would like to light the chalice. We each find a way to connect with each other and something greater than ourselves. Today we look at fasting and the many different ways that it can affect our lives. We look at the benefits and what it can bring to our own body and minds. And may we be filled with thoughtful ideas and a clear understanding of what it is as we unfold this idea of worship together today. So what is fasting? Is the first thing. We commonly associate fasting with food. But it's really an abstinence from anything. So it doesn't have to be food. So do you know that we fast every day? Every one of us? When we go to sleep at night, of course, we can't eat because we're asleep. And when we get up in the morning, we break fast. Or some of us, I love my breakfast, so that's the first thing I do. Yeah, so we all do it to some degree or other. So here's a quote I like quite a lot that relates to fasting. And it's from Tariq Ramadan, who's a Swiss Muslim academic, philosopher and writer. The philosophy of fasting calls upon us to know ourselves, to master ourselves, and to discipline ourselves the better to free ourselves. To fast is to identify our dependencies and free ourselves from them. So that last bit I like specifically. To fast is to identify our dependencies and free ourselves from them. So that's the idea I like best about fasting. But we'll get more into that in a bit. But first we'll go into our first song, our hymn. In spring we ploughed our furrows. So this is in the green books. If you want to use it, or you can use the words on screen. Number 273. Something gone wrong in the slides a little bit, but we shall just press on regardless. So let's look more into a story about fasting for dietary purposes. So in 1965, Angus Barberi from Fife hit 32 stone. He fasted for 382 days, consuming only vitamins, yeast, and 0-calorie beverages, and no solid food, if that's possible. I can't see that for myself anyway. He lost a significant amount of weight, of course, after 382 days. He aimed to reach his ideal weight, which was 180 pounds, just under 13 stone, and was willing to forego all food intake while doctors were monitoring his progress at the University Department of Medicine at the Royal Infirmary of Dundee. He lost 125 kilograms, which is just under 20 stone, which is the equivalent of 276 pounds. This story highlights the extreme lengths individuals can go for weight loss and the medical monitoring that can be involved in such a prolonged fast. He set the World Guinness Book of Records for the longest recorded fast without solid food. So that's extreme fasting, one that I would probably not go to that length anyway. I know myself that when I consume too much food, I don't feel great. I am bloated and feel uncomfortable. The will to do anything after that, especially if it's physical, is for instance, like walking, becomes a thought, and I usually end up doing nothing until the digestive system has caught up a little and I feel like moving again. This is a downward spiral, and the calories I eat are not burned off. If I eat too late at night, then I get indigestion and I end up waking up in the night with a headache. Eating too much without working it off places our bodies in a state of unbalance. If we are in a state of unbalance, our bodies are not going to work in a way that they should. So here's another quote which relates to that a little. This is from Rumi. We are lutes, no more, no less. If the sound box is stuffed full of anything, then no music. If the brain and the belly are burning clean with fasting, Every moment a new song comes out of the fire. So it's just that case of balance, like I was saying, fill yourself up, you don't want to do anything. If you have too little, that can bring fatigue. So there's a balance there. Of course, we don't have to we don't want to go to the other way and not feed ourselves properly either. Our bodies work better when we look after ourselves, eat healthily, and get regular exercise. This is not a crazy philosophy, it's just common sense and being in tune with our bodies. But why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we let ourselves get into bad habits to the detriment of our bodies? I find it very easy to get into these bad habits. I'm talking, to myself as well as anybody else. While life expectancy is generally increasing, so you think that we must be doing something right as generations go on. But while life expectancy has increased, recent generations are experiencing higher rates of chronic diseases and disabilities at the same age compared to previous generations. So trends such as are suggesting a trend of generational health drift. Easy for me to say. This means that although people are living longer, they spend more of those years in poor health. So what is generational health drift? Studies have shown that individuals born in the latter half of the 20th century, like baby boomers and late generations, tend to have worse health outcomes at the same age compared to their predecessors. So increased chronic diseases. This trend is associated with higher rates of chronic diseases like diabetes, obesity, and heart disease, and other disabilities. So the early onset of some of these health conditions are also beginning at an early age than previous generations, which has an implication to healthcare. The implications of this generational health drift are significant for healthcare systems, which are already dealing with an aging population and increased demand for services. So factors that contribute to this drift. Researchers are investigating various factors that could contribute to this trend, including changes in lifestyle, environment, and potential genetic influences. I often witness many people with health problems ignoring their own bodies and doctors' advice and continuing their destructive behaviours in spite of the telltale signs. Sometimes these signs are subtle, so you might be able to understand it. But other times are not so subtle. And if you have to have an operation or take medication for anything, then you need to review your life choices. Of course, sometimes it can be helped. We need medication. But sometimes, especially on the earlier onsets, and if you're younger and healthier, then sometimes these warning signs, we should be really listening to. So I don't exclude myself from taking this advice either. It is hard work sometimes, and accepting that you have to make change. It can be difficult to acknowledge that we all have choices as we go through the various stages of life that we have to make, when our bodies, manifest these certain subtle signs of change to the detriment of, how we normally live. But it's just about being open and listen, and if we find ourselves with anything that we think is making our bodies unbalanced, then we have to do something about it. So here we are talking about fasting as one of the methods. So as we think about that, we can go into our next hymn. We bring to the altar the bread of our toil. And this is in the purple books, 180. Follow it in the books. So fasting offers several little known benefits, including potentially boosting brain function, improving heart health, and even promoting longevity. While fasting is often associated with weight loss, it also impacts other aspects of life, such as insulin sensitivity and immune functions. Some studies suggest that fasting may even enhance cognitive performance and protect against certain diseases. So let's break this down a little bit. So brain health, so a cognitive boost. Studies suggest that fasting can improve working memory and verbal memory in humans and increase brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a hormone that may protect against depression and other mental conditions. So neurodegenerative diseases. Some research indicates that intermittent fasting may have a protective effect against neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, according to a report by the BBC. Heart and health. Improve blood pressure and heart rate. Intermittent fasting can improve blood pressure and resting heart rates, according to Johns Hopkins Medicine, and other related heart-related measurements. Reduce cardiovascular risk. Fasting can also reduce cardiovascular risk factors like blood pressure, cholesterol levels, according to Medical News Today. So longevity and cellular health. So increased HGH levels. Fasting can increase human growth hormone levels, which play a role in growth, metabolism, and potentially extend lifespan. So gut microbiome. Some studies suggest that fasting can increase the diversity of beneficial bacteria in the gut and microbiome, according to Healthline, including the Christensenella species. I should stop putting these large words into the address, which are linked to longevity. So autophagy. Fasting can trigger a process called autophagy, where the body cleans out damaged cells, according to Bupa UK, potentially leading to increased cellular health and longevity. So here are a few other benefits. Improved insulin sensitivity. Fasting can improve insulin sensitivity, which is important for managing blood sugar levels and reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes. Can reduce inflammation. So fasting can help reduce inflammation in the body, which is a key factor in many chronic diseases. Enhance physical performance. Studies suggest that intermittent fasting may improve physical performance, including endurance in animal studies. So potential cancer prevention. Some animal and cell studies suggest that fasting may help block tumor growth and enhance the effectiveness of chemotherapy. Fasting can also have negative effects depending on our bodies, as we are all different. It's not to be done without a lot of thought and research first, and consulting a doctor beforehand is always a good idea. So it's not something to rush into, something to consider if we seriously want to go down that route, and listen to our bodies, what they're saying, and do it in accordance to what is good for ourselves. So I'm going to go a little bit into religious fasting, into the different religious practices. So a practice of abstaining from food or other activities for a period of time is a common tradition in many religions, often viewed as a way to connect with the divine, express repentance, or achieve spiritual growth. So the spiritual significance of religious fasting is often seen as a way to focus on prayer and spiritual reflection. The time spent fasting can be dedicated to prayer, meditation, and studying religious texts. Express repentance and seeking forgiveness. Fasting can be a way to acknowledge wrongdoing and seek divine grace. Strengthen faith and deepen connection with the divine. The act of self-denial can lead to a greater appreciation of spiritual matters. So these are a few ideas and beliefs of why fasting is done in different religions. So the varied practices across different religions. So the duration, some fasts are for a single day, while others, like Ramadan in Islam, last for an entire month. Restrictions, some fasts involve abstaining from food and water, while others might involve abstaining from certain foods or activities or pleasures. Rituals, fasting is often accompanied by spiritual rituals such as prayer, scripture, reading, or community gatherings. So some of the examples where it's used are some of the religions, such as Christianity. So Lent, for instance, as we're coming to the end of Lent at this period. So Lent is a 40-day period of fasting and repentance leading up to Easter. And there's also some Christians who fast on Wednesdays and Fridays or during specific seasons. This used to be Mondays and Thursdays. And now it's changed to Wednesdays and Fridays. Not all Christians fast. It's something that's been done for thousands of years, and is in some early texts and scripture, but it's not for everybody. So some people might give up chocolate for Lent, or something else. And to be honest, in my younger days when I used to follow Christianity in a different form, I used to give up something I thought was easy. But I never put that much effort into fasting as I might do these days. So Islam, Ramadan, we've just seen the end of Ramadan. Ramadan is something that moves. It's in the cycle of the moon, and that cycle lasts about 29 days. So Ramadan slowly moves throughout the year. So it's moved from winter and it's moving towards, it's moved from the summer months and it's moving towards winter. So you can imagine through the summer months you cannot eat until the sun set, and then you cannot eat between the sunrise and the sunset. And so through the winter months that gets rather short, so it makes it a lot easier through Ramadan. So Judaism, for Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year in Judaism, marked by a 25-hour fast. Judaism also observes other fasts throughout the year, such as Tish B'Av, among other ones. Hinduism, there's specific days which Hindus fast, and of course on very specific festivals. They have many festivals throughout the year, so there's plenty of opportunities for them to observe this. Buddhism, partial fasting. Some Buddhist monks and nuns observe a form of fasting, abstaining from certain foods or meals. The Buddha himself fasted to the extreme when he was searching for enlightenment, living on a grain of rice a day, until he realized that was going way too far, and decided to seek an alternative method. And that's when he sat underneath a tree for 40 days or 39 days and became enlightened. So there's all different forms of fasting and different ways of doing it through different religions. So here's another little story, and this is a breatharian who breathes air instead of food, or can sometimes use sunlight as a way of absorbing the energy that they need. So this person, who was an Indian yogi called Prahlad Jani, who allegedly survived without food for over 70 years. He allegedly started living without food at the early age of 11 years old after a religious experiment as a follower of Amba, a Hindu goddess. He believed that the goddess provided him liquid nourishment or water which drops down through a hole in his palate that allows him to survive without food or water. So in 2003, scientists took him to a hospital where he was kept under constant surveillance for 10 days. In this time period, he ate no food and he didn't drink any water. He was allowed to gargle with a glass of water each day as mouthwash, which was measured to make sure he was not swallowing it. And at the end of the study, he was examined and deemed fit and healthy. Of course, not eating or drinking anything meant he never had to go to the toilet either, which is one positive side effect, if you think of it that way. He died when he was 90 years old, so true or not, he still lived to a ripe old age, so he must have been doing something right. Of course, the body cannot live without water ordinarily any longer for 3 days, so this was quite a unique phenomenon. And there was no papers published on this, so it's all to do with the people who surrounded him, who's relating these tales. But to go for 10 days without any food or water is still quite a feat, and to be still, healthy and fit. So I shall leave that in your own minds, whether that's true or not, or how credible it is, but it's still quite a story. So a little bit about my own story about fasting. So I'm currently fasting today. Today is one of my fast days. So this is another reason why I thought it'd be quite poignant to speak about it today, as well as end of Ramadan and Lent. So it was very, that subject was quite high on the agenda for me. So I fast twice a month, on the new moon and the full moon. So last night was a new moon, and for those of you who are stargazers, it was a pink moon. Although it is not exactly pink, it has quite a white golden hue. It is a micro moon, as it is the furthest point away from the Earth, known as Aberdeen. So this form of fasting is taken from the Taoist practice called bigu, grain avoidance, such as rice, or typically refraining from the 5 grains, which are considered the essence of the earth and associated with earthly desires. So bigu is a technique aimed at achieving transcendence through the abstinence of grains and other food, with some practitioners surviving on chi energy alone. So 5 grains, a little bit more about the 5 grains. So bigu focuses on refraining from the 5 grains, a term with varying interpretations across Taoist texts and practices. The most common understanding includes rice, wheat, millet, soybeans, and hemp. So I try not to have, rice or any of these. It's just symbolism, really, for me, in most sense. So more about that, symbolism. The 5 grains are seen as the source of earthly attachments, and are believed to contaminate the body and spirit, hindering the spiritual progress. So bigu is a practice aimed at purifying the body and achieving a higher state of consciousness. So that's the spiritual purpose of bigu. So on the day of fasting, I sometimes just have a simple breakfast, like I had this morning. I will miss a main meal, which may often be lunch, or have a light dinner in the evening. So it's not like an arduous type of thing, I'm just cutting out one meal. So the benefit of this is that it feels so much better in the morning after fasting the previous day. So as I say, it's not an arduous task to eat light and miss one meal. I do it to show to myself that I am in control of food, and not the other way around, that food is in control of me. I've always been slightly obsessed, and I used to be a lot bigger at one point. Because I love food, I just love eating different things, I like trying different recipes. So in a way to balance myself, I try and make sure that, and I do this just in a purpose to try and balance myself and my association with food. So of course, in turn, it deepens my own practice of self-control, which is good for balancing the body and mind as well as spirit. And for me, that's the whole purpose. I like to think of it as inner alchemy, as that as that is how it is portrayed in the Taoist culture. A practice aimed at transforming the body and achieving a greater sense of spirituality as we use it for focus and creating balance, like the yin and the yang. By regulating body functions through fasting, Taoists believe that they can enhance their life force, which is qi, which is the purpose of qigong and tai chi, practices which I undertake from time to time, or as regular as I can. So, why the lunar cycle alignment? It is a connection between the lunar cycle and human well-being. Fasting around the new moon and full moon aligns with these natural rhythms, promoting a sense of harmony and balance. Life is all about rhythm, just like the circadian rhythms. It goes up and down, just like any lunar cycle. It affects our bodies in different ways. So beyond physical health, fasting is considered spiritual practice that helps us individually to cleanse the mind. So by abstaining from worldly pleasures and desires, fasting allows for a deeper focus on inner reflection and spiritual growth. Cultivate discipline and self-control. The act of fasting requires discipline and self-mastery, which are valuable qualities for a person's personal health and in pursuit of greater spiritual awareness. Again, for me, which was important. Fasting from pleasure. Eating is one of the obvious pleasures in which we fast from. But there are plenty of other things that we can fast from also, such as TV, games, drinking, computing, collecting, exercise or non-exercise, overthinking. The list is endless. The things that we can do plenty of, which we might overdo, tip that balance in our bodies. We can probably think of many things. So as I said before, it's all about balance. If you do something excessively, then there's a good chance you really need a break from it. It is not a bad idea to be able to prove to yourself that you are not controlled by it. So you can exercise excessively, or you can not exercise at all. It's all about balance, all about finding that middle road, and it's just good for the body. So an obsessive behavior can take us into a downward spiral. We live in a culture where we are obsessed with being distracted from our daily lives. And it's natural to have a need to be connected to each other. Often we seek that goal through the internet. It is not always a bad thing, but some people cannot live their lives without constantly looking at their phones or feeling that need for distraction at the detriment of the people around them. But sometimes you can be so engrossed in something, whether it be a phone or something else, a book or whatever, that we just forget about the people who's around us or sat with us. Or it's sometimes good to just think for a minute and pay attention to the people that are around us who we connect with on a regular basis. So for some people, it is their way of dealing with life. So we also got to recognize this, that sometimes we distract ourselves just so that we can deal with the frustrations of life. So we immerse ourselves in technology and all kinds of information. This can give you information overload and lead to anxiety if we sort of do that too often. Other things like depression and compulsive disorders, if we don't just keep these things in check. Again, all about balance. So a break from this and doing something different is not really a bad idea. It's funny because as I was writing this address, I was thinking to myself, I should really go for a walk and enjoy a bit of this nature and the sun that we've got just now. But there I was sat doing this address, and so I missed my walk and I missed the sun, but I did have a deadline, so. So because I had a deadline, I focused on this. And I didn't give myself a break until later on at night. But life's do get busy. And this is natural to hit these deadlines and try and focus on these things. But again, we've got to have a break now and again. We've got to look after ourselves. So as I say, we all have goals and deadlines, but at the same time we need to break, and that can be considered as fasting too. Taking a conscious break from our routines can be considered a form of fasting, especially if it's done mindfully and with intention. So a quote from Mahatma Gandhi: "Fasting is futile unless it is accompanied by an incessant longing for self-restraint." So we have to look at this in a way of, control. It's okay to be going down one route and spending all our time looking and achieving, but if we don't take a break now and again, then what have we really achieved? We can have burnouts and other things like that. So many people go through their lives not even considering the thought of fasting, yet it promises so many benefits, especially for a lot of us who do not go hungry. Especially for a lot of us. So hunger is something that drives us to rather overeat, or drives us to different levels of, we can be obese or we can be anorexic, taking it to its extremes. And there's the middle road, which most of us fall into that category. But sometimes we have to evaluate our situations and consider that we may be able to enhance our own lives in some way, and that there have been many tools in which we can do this, fasting just being one of these tools. It's not right for everybody, and if you decide to fast, you have to do it with the right intention, keeping in mind the requirements and needs of the body. We have to bring balance into our lives, and it is not a bad idea to do something to take stock and have a look at the idea of this. What needs balance in my life to make it better? Is there anything I can do about it? That's a question I sometimes ask myself. What needs balance, and can I do something about it? I like to think that when we ask ourselves this question, looking at our own life from an outside perspective, you can become more aware of what you can do to bring a little bit more harmony into your own life. And often we work on ourselves in this way to bring a little harmony to the world around us, not just ourselves. So we make our lives a better place. It all starts with ourselves. So let's sum this up a little. Fasting is not all about food, it's an abstinence from something. Everyone fasts every single day and breaks our fast at some point after getting up from sleeping. Fasting can have many physical and mental benefits and is used for spiritual growth. It is used in many different spiritual and religious practices and used in combination with certain ceremonies. So now that we know what fasting is it for you? Only you can decide, and that choice is totally your own. As I say, fasting is not for everybody. So with that in mind, we're going to our final hymn. Let us give thanks and praise. So in the purple books, number 90, if you want to follow along, or follow along on screen.
Friendship, for water and air, for the earth and the
know and understand that fasting is something we do as part of our daily routine. It is something we consider for the benefit of ourselves and others as we depart. May we consider what balance we have in our own lives and consider where our focus may be needed to give ourselves a greater sense of balance. And whatever the outcome is, may we be kind to ourselves as well as others.